Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. To Ning Tian, the sea god's fated blind date was a huge humiliation that she would always remember. This time, in the yin-yang love-querying valley, after she heard Wu Feng's confession, her emotions were extremely conflicted. She was touched by Wu Feng's love for her. If I were a guy, this would be great. Just as a flurry of thoughts crossed Ning Tian's mind, the wheel in front of her finally stopped. A familiar symbol appeared before her. This was the symbol which had appeared in front of Shusansha. It was a pair of lips. Dazedly, she lifted her head to look at Wu Feng. Wu Feng looked back at her. However, right now, Wu Feng's eyes brimmed with joy. Asterisk. Blur, blur, the sound of vomiting resounded in the air for a few minutes before finally stopping. Bei Bei and Shusansha stared at each other in anger. The odor from their bodies reached its peak. However, as they looked at each other's pathetic state, the expressions on their faces started to change. Finally. Ha ha ha. Reality proves that I have absolutely no interest in you, Shusansha said proudly. Bei Bei said angrily, what crap? Do you think I'm interested in you? You bastard, you dirtied me. Hurry up and clean me. It's so uncomfortable. Where is this place? As they spoke, the two of them finally reacted to their new surroundings as they surveyed them. The place they were at was a pile of rubble. They could see ruined buildings and scenes of devastation all around them. It resembled a city, but it was evidently different from the situation in the yin-yang love-querying valley. Shusansha activated his soul power. A black light swept past their bodies. The special water-type power of the Xuanwu cleaned the vomit from their bodies. Bei Bei also activated his lightning-type soul power to get rid of the smell in the air. This looks like... Shusansha and Bei Bei looked at each other, because they both found the architectural style here familiar. They looked into the distance, where a tall building confirmed their suspicions. Shocked, the two of them said in unison, Radiant City. At this moment, the calm voice that had tortured them so much rang in their minds, the deep adventure shall commence. The theme of the adventure is breakout. You're required to break out of Radiant City, and get back to the Western Mountains to pass the deep adventure. The environment around you is real. If you die in this round, you'll die for real. If you don't return to the Western Mountains in 3 days, you will have failed this round, and be punished with death. Begin. The voice disappeared, and a light golden hourglass appeared near the corner of their eyes. Sand slowly trickled down so as to keep track of the time. Also, the hourglass sinisterly reminded them that they were still under the yin-yang love-querying valley's control. When they sensed this change, Bei Bei and Shusansha both cursed. One could only imagine the state Radiant City was currently in. Having undergone such a destructive explosion, the entire city should be in a state of lockdown. No one knew how many soldiers and powerful people were around them. While the two of them were not weak, this was still the capital of the Sun Moon Empire. How could they return to the Western Mountains so easily? Let's strategize, said Bei Bei, who had calmed down before Shusansha, as he waved his hands. Shusansha nodded meaningfully. They were both elites of Shrek Academy. Faced with danger, they put aside their anger and regained their cool. He looked at his surroundings, and they found a rather secluded corner and hid. Bei Bei said helplessly, at least we were given 3 days, not 3 hours. Shusansha looked at him, annoyed, and said, how are your wounds? Bei Bei said, I can attack. You? Shusansha laughed bitterly and said, better than you. I have 70% of my strength left. Let's pray we aren't too unlucky. Perhaps we can even sneak out. At this moment, they heard footsteps and a voice. Quick, search that area. See if there are any casualties. Search there too. Bei Bei stared at Shusansha with an odd gaze as he growled in a low voice, shut your damn trap in the future. Keek. Asterisk. Light flashed, and Dai Huabin found himself in an army camp, To his surprise, he was wearing a uniform. At this moment, he stood outside a huge tent. It was dark around him. It was nighttime. This is. When he saw this familiar scene, Dai Huabin was stunned. He even doubted whether everything he had just experienced was a dream. Maybe this was reality. However, reality was cruel. The plain voice from the Yin-Yang Love Querying Valley sounded, "The deep adventure will start now. The theme is rescue. Your father, the White Tiger Duke Dai Hao, is being targeted by an assassin. You must stop the assassin to help your father escape danger. You are now one of his bodyguards. No one will know who you really are. You can only depend on your intellect and your abilities. The scenario in this round is completely real, which means that if you can't save your father, not only will you die, but your father will die too. 5 minutes later, your father will bring men out on a patrol. After 2 hours, you will regain your ability to speak. You can't stop him from going out. The enemy can appear at any moment. To win, you have to help your father return to the army camp successfully. If the White Tiger Duke dies, you fail, and will be punished with death." When Dai Huabin heard the voice and the requirements for this round, he could not help stare in the air in shock. He had been sent thousands of miles away, to the Mingdo mountain range to his father's camp. However, his father would not recognize him, and would even undergo an assassination attempt. What is going on? Just as he stood there in shock, the bodyguard next to him trembled. Then, a familiar smell wafted over. Dai Huabin squinted, and to his shock, he realized that the other bodyguard had turned into Zhulu. Lulu. Dai Huabin wanted to shout, but he realized that he could not say anything. At this moment, Zhulu was already looking at him. She was evidently deeply touched. Instantly, she threw herself into his arms. Tears streamed uncontrollably down her face. While the two of them could not speak, Dai Huabin could see from Zhulu's face that she had already forgiven him. At this moment, Zhulu's body froze. Her expression transitioned from touch to shock. Evidently, she had heard something. Zhulu grabbed Dai Huabin and squatted down immediately. Her finger made rapid motions in the soil, and words appeared in front of him. Dai Huabin opened his eyes wide in shock. Her deep adventure was exactly the same as his. "You're so dumb. You passed this round, so why are you here?" Dai Huabin wrote quickly on the ground. Zhulu shook her head, and a smile crept across her face. She lifted her head and kissed him. Then, she wrote on the ground, "We shall live and die together." Dai Huabin's body trembled. He looked at Zhulu and nodded vigorously at her. At this moment, a bugle sounded. Dai Huabin was the son of the White Tiger Duke. He had been in the military since he was young, and naturally understood what the bugle meant. This was a signal to gather, meant specifically for the White Tiger bodyguards. Indeed, a huge amount of White Tiger bodyguards started to move. The two of them wore the apparel of White Tiger bodyguards too, so naturally, they ran together with the rest. "Father is going to experience an assassination attempt. What can I do? What should I do?" At this moment, he realized he was still lost. He could not speak, and even if he could, his father could not recognize him. If he told his father about the assassination attempt, his father would surely not believe him. Dai Huabin had never experienced such a situation before. His thoughts were scattered, and he did not know what to do. However, he was clear that this task was no joke. If he failed, not only would Zhulu and he die, but his father would too. At this moment, Dai Huabin could only concentrate. The White Tiger bodyguards were the most elite soldiers under the White Tiger Duke. They gathered quickly. From afar, Dai Huabin saw his father, clad in armor, standing in front of the main tent. His expression was icy cold. A servant brought his steed over. It was the dashing White Tiger colt. The White Tiger Duke Dai Hao's gaze swept over his bodyguards. Then he nodded and said, "The temporary peace did not cause you to slack off. I'm pleased. All right, small team 1, patrol with me. The rest are dismissed. Let's go." As he spoke, he leaped onto the White Tiger colt. 4 other guards mounted their horses too. Section 1 of the White Tiger bodyguards ran toward the stable and mounted a horse each. They set off together with the White Tiger Duke. Undoubtedly, Dai Huabin and Zhu Lu were part of small team 1. The White Tiger bodyguards were personal soldiers of the White Tiger Duke. Even though the war had ended, and the White Tiger Duke no longer held the position of marshal, his bodyguards would still follow him everywhere. In the White Tiger bodyguards, 100 men formed one small team, 500 men formed one mid-team, and 1,500 men formed one large team. The entire White Tiger bodyguards comprised 3 companies, which was equivalent to the strength of 1 regiment. There were also some special operatives. This was the maximum amount of soldiers Dai Hao, as the White Tiger Duke, was allowed. Dai Hao rode out on the White Tiger colt in front of them. He was not fast, and the White Tiger bodyguards caught up to him quickly. Every one of them rode a dragon-scale horse, and wore a complete set of white armor. In the blackness of the night, they were extremely eye-catching. The rhythmic clatter of metal could be heard throughout the entire Ming-Do mountain range. To protect against a sudden invasion by the Sun-Moon Empire, the Star-Do Empire had stationed troops in the Ming-Do mountain range. The White Tiger Duke was in charge of the Ming-Do mountain range, and had been appointed as the commander of the Western Army. There were 3 other commanders as well, all of whom were important officials of the Star-Luo Empire. The Ming-Do mountain range extended south for thousands of kilometers from the borders of the Star-Luo Empire, the Heavenly Soul Empire, and the Sun-Moon Empire. It was named from when it was formed from the crash between the Sun-Moon continent and the Doluo continent. Translators note, the Chinese word for Ming is formed from the combination of the Chinese words for sun and moon. The Ming-Do mountain range had complicated terrain. Weird rock formations were everywhere, and there was little vegetation. Thanks to this natural barrier, the Star-Luo Empire did not face as much pressure from the Sun-Moon Empire. Coupled with the vastness of the Star-Luo Empire, while it was just one of 3 original countries of the Doluo continent, it was still bigger than the Sun-Moon Empire. With a heavy garrison, it would not be easy for the Sun-Moon Empire to invade through here. However, while the Ming-Do mountain range was good for defense, it was still difficult to station troops there because of its geographical features. Coupled with its long and narrow terrain, garrison troops would naturally have to be dispersed over a wide area. The White Tiger Duke would patrol often to inspect the various troops of the Western Army. He was famous for his strict application of military justice. In the past few years, the Western Army had been impenetrable. In the small skirmishes they had with the Sun-Moon Empire's own garrison troops, they had never experienced any defeats. It was also why the Sun-Moon Empire trod carefully here. This time, Dai Hao went out to inspect the 3 camps that were 150 kilometers south of his main camp. He headed out at night so that he could return to his main camp before nightfall tomorrow. When Hui Yuhao heard the cold voice announce that he and Wang Donga would be sent directly to the Deep Adventure Round, he could not help but curse despite his normally mature nature. This is too unfair, he thought. The mysterious yin-yang love-querying valley seemed to be targeting him. He did not feel that he had cheated. In fact, if they really continued to fight, he might not have been able to best Wang Qiu'er. Did it actually want him and Wang Donga to join forces to defeat Wang Qiu'er before sending them to the Deep Adventure Round? What kind of logic was that? However, there was no chance for him to vent his frustration. He and Wang Donga fell into a patch of golden light. Everything around him became unclear. He felt as if his entire body was being twisted. It was agonizing. With much difficulty, he finally escaped from this pain. To his shock, he realized that he was now on a horse. The horse galloped and he was almost thrown off. Fortunately for him, he grabbed the saddle in time to steady himself. Where is this place? Hui Yuhao looked in front of him. There were men in front and behind of him. They all wore familiar white armor. It was night, and everything seemed slightly blurry as the dragon-scale horse underneath him galloped. He turned his head to look to the side and recognized Wang Donga, who was seated next to him. The 2 of them looked too obvious in this group. Wang Donga could still blend in, as she was wearing the white armor. However, Hu Yuhao wore his human-shaped soul tool, forged from rare metals. What made him curious was the fact that while his human-shaped soul tool weighed at least 250 kilos, his steed seemed to have no problems carrying him. Yuhao, where are we? Wang Donga asked curiously. Hu Yuhao chuckled bitterly and said, I don't know. Is this part of the test? At this moment, the calm voice rang out in their minds. The deep adventure begins. The theme of this round is rescue. You're now on patrol with the White Tiger Duke. After a while, there will be an ambush. Both of you look like White Tiger bodyguards, and you will not be recognized due to your appearance or your special equipment. The requirements for this round are to assist the White Tiger Duke after he has been ambushed, and help him to escape back to his camp. At the same time, you have to keep Dai Huabin and Zhu Lu, both of whom are also in this group, alive. Only when all three of them return to the White Tiger Duke's main camp successfully will you have succeeded. If any one of them dies, you will fail, and be punished with death. The round starts now. After he heard the contents of this test, Hu Yuhao did not know what to say. What nonsense is this? Not only do I have to save someone, but I also have to babysit them. Furthermore, the rescue target is. No useful tip was provided. He did not know who his enemy was, or how many of them would appear. He could guess the capabilities of his foes. Anyone who dared to assassinate the White Tiger Duke could not be weak, and should at least be a titled Doluo. After all, the White Tiger Duke was a powerful soul Doluo. Furthermore, as a Duke of the Empire, and the commander of the three armies, he and his personal bodyguards would be equipped with powerful soul tools, too. The stronger he was, the more powerful his potential foes would be. What angered Hu Yuhao even more was that he had to rescue Dai Huabin and Zhu Lu. Furthermore, he could not fail. If any one of them died, they would fail. Right now, the fates of Dai Hao, Dai Huabin, and Zhu Lu were all tied together with his and Wang Dong's. Anything that had to do with Dai Hao would trigger Hu Yuhao. However, he was trained under the ultimate soldier plan, and hence, in terms of his resilience and mental strength, he was way superior to Dai Huabin. He was angry and upset for a short while, but he soon calmed down. He started to analyze the situation in front of him. At the same time, he activated his spiritual detection to sweep everyone around him, and get a sense of the situation. Wang Donga regained her cool, too. When she felt Hu Yuhao sharing his spiritual detection with her, she felt more at ease. She knew that Hu Yuhao had been able to calm down. As long as he was calm, it would be fine. Wang Donga knew of Hu Yuhao's grievance with the White Tiger Duke. When she heard that they were out here to save Dai Hao, she was also shocked. She could not help but look at Hu Yuhao. Indeed, Hu Yuhao had an odd expression on his face. However, to her relief, his expression soon returned to normal. It meant he was able to calm down. Yuhao is becoming more and more mature. Even in such a situation, he calmed down almost immediately. Yuhao, how's your soul power? Before they came, Hu Yuhao had fought fiercely with Wang Chioa. Hu Yuhao said, it's at its peak. The yin-yang love querying valley is generous. If it had not replenished my soul power to its peak, I'm afraid we'd have no chance at all. Quickly, the feedback from spiritual detection was seared into his mind. The White Tiger Duke brought 4 special guards who rode at the front with him. With his spiritual detection, Hu Yuhao could sense that they had at least 6 rings. Coupled with the White Tiger Duke, who was an 8-ringed soul Doluo, they were definitely not weak. The other White Tiger bodyguards around him were all soul masters, as well. While they were not terribly powerful, some of the leaders of the small groups had the power of 2-ringed or 3-ringed soul masters. To normal soldiers, the White Tiger bodyguards were indeed elites. They were all well-trained and well-armed. Even 4-ringed and 5-ringed soul masters would not dare to take them on. However, not all of the White Tiger bodyguards were soul masters. For any country, the number of soul masters was always going to be a problem. Even for the Sun Moon Empire, which tapped into the strength of their entire country, they had only formed a few soul master legions. It was a rare sight to see so many soul masters gather back in Radiant City. At least one-third of all the powerful soul masters on the continent had been involved in the ambush against the palace. After he had an idea of the overall strength on his side, Hu Yuhao made some calculations. Then, he started to scour the group for his target. Fortunately, the odd space did not treat them too harshly. Hu Yuhao quickly found Dai Huabin and Zhu Lu. Instantly, he reached out to them with his spiritual detection, and was able to complete his spiritual detection sharing with them. At this moment, Dai Huabin was panicking. He just regained his voice when he felt Hu Yuhao's spiritual detection sharing hit him. Dai Huabin and Zhu Lu felt their minds buzz. The blackness around them lit up, and they could sense every small change in a 50-meter radius. This sensation, which made them feel as if they were looking down from the sky, surprised them. His words entered their minds. Dai Huabin, Zhu Lu, it's Hu Yuhao. Wang Donga and I are taking part in this deep adventure with you. No matter what differences we had in the past, we now face the same problem. You should know what to do. In particular, this concerns the life of your father, Dai Huabin. What you're sensing now is my spiritual detection, which has finished connecting to you. From now on, my spiritual sharing will always be activated. If you trust me, listen to my orders. Only then can we stand a chance of saving your father. Do you understand? Even though that person was Hu Yuhao's father too, his first and only visit to this camp took place 5 years ago with Dai Yueheng. Hence, he had never recognized the Duke as his father. Hu Yuhao had calmed down completely. It was a mechanical kind of cool. In this state, his judgment would be best, as he cast aside all emotional attachment and faced everything before him calmly. Dai Huabin and Zhu Lu looked at each other. They could see the look of joy in each other's eyes. While they had never thought well of Hu Yuhao, they could not deny that he was powerful, indeed. When he first joined the academy, he was able to join forces with Wang Donga, who back then was still Wang Dong, and they emerged as the champions of the entrance exam. Since then, Dai Huabin had tried to beat him many times through his own efforts, but failed over and over again. At this time, he had to admit that the distance between Hu Yuhao and him had widened even more. There was no way he could catch up now. Dai Huabin had had no idea what to do. When he heard Hu Yuhao's voice, he felt a sense of relief. He nodded vigorously from atop his horse, signaling to Hu Yuhao that he would obey all his commands. Hu Yuhao snorted coldly in his heart. This guy isn't that dumb. As he thought that, Hu Yuhao did not slack off. He enveloped the White Tiger Duke in his spiritual power. While he did not know where the enemy would ambush him, it had to be somewhere he had to pass by. Right now, he did not care how the enemy knew of the White Tiger Duke's patrolling schedule, but he had to stop him from advancing. To assassinate the White Tiger Duke, the enemy must have laid an inescapable trap. The moment they entered it, Hu Yuhao did not think that he would be able to save the White Tiger Duke. Wang Donga was a Soul Emperor, and Dai Huabin, Zhu Lu, and he were all Soul Kings. With their strength, how could they save the 8-ringed White Tiger Duke? What power did they have? The only way to do so was to avoid the enemy's trap completely. The White Tiger Duke sat atop his White Tiger colt, allowing it to gallop ahead at full speed. He was motionless as he rode on. The reason he came out to patrol was because of the unstable situation in the Sun Moon Empire. The Sun Moon Empire had wanted to strike for a long time. The two sides were inches away from war. On the Star Luo Empire's side, they had stationed many soldiers at every single pass and choke point. According to the news from the Sun Moon Empire, they were still months away from war. The Sun Moon Empire could only attack after they stationed enough soldiers at the border. However, Dai Hao had received a shocking piece of news today. An unprecedented explosion had rocked Radiant City, devastating more than 1/3 of the capital. The explosion threw the Sun Moon Empire into turmoil, and they had suffered heavy losses. An official statement from the Sun Moon Empire stated that the explosion had something to do with the Star Luo Empire and the Heavenly Soul Empire, though it gave no details. According to the information Dai Hao had received, Princess Jiujia wrote that the explosion had nothing to do with them. It was likely committed by Shrek Academy. But it did not matter who did it anymore. An explosion like this would have a severe impact on Radiant City. While there were not a lot of casualties, the illustrious Virtue Hall and the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy were both completely destroyed. It was also likely that one of their major armories was destroyed, as well. Under these conditions, it was much less likely for the Sun Moon Empire to start a war. In particular, according to his intelligence, the Emperor of the Sun Moon Empire was so overcome by the explosion that he passed away. This would throw the imperial family of the Sun Moon Empire into an internal conflict. While the Crown Prince, Xu Tianran, had an absolute advantage in the initiative, the other princes, who had a chance of ascending the throne, were not weak, either. Furthermore, they understood Xu Tianran very well. The moment he ascended the throne, their fates were sealed. Hence, they would surely counterattack with all their might. For the Star Luo Empire, this was good news. The chance of an all-out war was currently almost zero. This would give the Star Luo Empire more time to prepare. In the past few years, the three original empires of the Doluo continent had put an increasing amount of attention toward the development of soul tools. The White Tiger Duke did the same. While he could not take part in the manufacturing of soul tools, he understood their importance in warfare. Not long ago, the White Tiger Duke had been extremely excited by one particular soul tool, the Zhuge Divine Crossbow Cannon from the Tang sect. Its most important aspect was that it could be operated by ordinary soldiers after it had been charged by the sealed milk bottles. While it was difficult to protect and guard, especially because of their reliance on and periodic maintenance required of stationary soul cannon shells, he was sure that the troops of the Mingdo mountain range, with its defensible terrain, would benefit greatly should the Zhuge Divine Crossbow Cannon be adopted on a wide scale. He was out on patrol today, because he worried that the damage to the Sun Moon Empire might provoke their troops to act irrationally. Hatred could cause one to lose their mind, especially when it came to hatred between countries. Hence, he wanted to inspect the defenses of all the major choke points. Dai Hao always liked to be personally involved. As a result, he was able to command respect among his troops. Right now, the blackness of night stretched far into the distance, and a chilly wind caressed his face. This put him into a good mood. After all, the delay of the war lessened the pressure on him, the commander of the three armies. Just as Dai Hao was thinking about how he should implement soul tools in his army, a mysterious spiritual ripple washed over him. It was not strong, but it was very fine. It seemed to penetrate his mind, and was trying to enter his spiritual sea. He furrowed his brows in anger, and his eyes shone with light. Spiritual fluctuations emitted from his body, blocking the spiritual power. At the same time, he raised his hand, causing the 4 special guards next to him to stop their horses. The White Tiger colt underneath him stopped, too. The White Tiger bodyguards were the elites of his army. Individually, while they could not compare with Soul Masters, they were very adept at arranging themselves into formations and following orders. The White Tiger Duke controlled them as if they were one of his limbs. Hundreds of White Tiger bodyguards stopped after they received the signal, and the formation remained as orderly as before. Dai Hao turned around, and his White Tiger colt growled. The White Tiger colt was a mysterious beast. It had the body of horse, the skin of a tiger, and its power was rank 6. Dai Hao had raised this one personally since it was young, and he viewed it as a brother. When paired with Dai Hao, before the latter reached the cultivation of a soul sage, he was already able to exhibit powers superior to 1. It had served Dai Hao well and faithfully. The senses of the White Tiger colt were sharp. Like Dai Hao, it could sense the spiritual fluctuations. It immediately looked at the last few members of the White Tiger bodyguards. "Who is it? Show yourself." Dai Hao bellowed. He glared in that direction. With his cultivation, he was able to sense that it came from one of his personal guards the moment it came into contact with him. This assessment shocked Dai Hao. He was able to eliminate his target's spiritual power, but its strength was not normal for White Tiger bodyguards. Only spiritual type Soul Masters should be this powerful. If not, only someone with the cultivation of a Soul Sage and above could do this. Fortunately, his opponent's spiritual power showed no ill will. There were disturbances among the White Tiger bodyguards. The 4 special guards next to Dai Hao rushed forward on their dragon-scale horses. One of them shouted, "Nobody move. Alert!" The White Tiger bodyguards grabbed the reins of their dragon-scale horses. None moved. Only the horses neighed. Hui Yuhao pressed down on the back of his horse and jumped down. At this moment, in the eyes of the other White Tiger bodyguards, he was a tall and strong member of their number. He did not appear too different from the rest. Under the power of the Yin-Yang love-querying valley, the other White Tiger bodyguards were all familiar with him and treated him as one of their own. However, no one could remember his name. "Lord Duke, it was me," Hui Yuhao shouted. The White Tiger Duke narrowed his eyes into slits. His other 4 special guards all leapt up from their horses as a pair of small wings opened behind them. They surrounded him from the air. Furthermore, the other White Tiger bodyguards drew their weapons and encircled Hui Yuhao. Only Wang Donga remained next to him. Dai Hao looked at Hui Yuhao, and his eyes narrowed into slits. He found him familiar too, but he could not remember his name. "Who are you? Did you use your spiritual power to test me?" Dai Hao roared. Hui Yuhao nodded and said, "Yes, you should have felt the strength of my spiritual power. I am a spiritual type soul master, and I joined the White Tiger bodyguards because of my respect for your loyalty to our country. I have nothing to hide, but I don't want to stand out too much. Hence, I remained in White Tiger bodyguards. Just now, I sensed danger in front, which was why I used my spiritual power to warn you." Suspicion filled Dai Hao's eyes. Then, his gaze turned cold as he said in a low voice, "Seize him." Part 1 end here.